What if Titanic never sank, but something even crazier happened instead? Picture this. Same ship, same iceberg warning, same freezing night in the Atlantic. But this time, the story takes a hard left turn nobody saw coming. So the ship hits the iceberg, right on schedule, everybody panics, and Jack and Rose are running through the flooding corridors just like we remember. But here's the twist. The captain, in this version, refuses to believe the damage is fatal. He keeps the engines running, tries to push through, and somehow, against every law of physics you learned in school, the ship holds together long enough to limp toward the nearest shipping lane. No dramatic sinking, no orchestra playing on deck, no "I'll never let go." Instead, Titanic staggers into port 3 days late, half flooded, but still floating, like a wounded animal that refuses to die. Now imagine the headlines. Not Titanic sinks, but Titanic survives. The unsinkable ship finally proves it. Overnight, the whole tragedy turns into the biggest publicity stunt in maritime history. The White Star Line, instead of facing lawsuits and public outrage, throws a celebration parade in New York. Jack and Rose step off that battered ship as accidental celebrities, two strangers from completely different worlds who survived the impossible voyage together. Cal is furious because suddenly nobody cares about his money. They only want to hear the love story of the poor artist and the rich girl who found each other in the middle of chaos. Here's where it gets messy though. Because the ship didn't sink, Rose never gets that clean, tragic goodbye. She has to go home. She has to face her mother, face Cal, face the wedding everyone still expects her to go through with, except now the entire country knows her face and her story. Jack becomes a minor celebrity too, sketching portraits for socialites who suddenly find the boy from third class fascinating. Their romance, instead of ending in heartbreak on a piece of floating door, has to survive gossip columns, jealous fiancés, and a society that loved the story but never actually wanted the poor guy to keep the girl. So Jack and Rose do the only thing that makes sense in this alternate world. They run. Literally. They fake their own disappearance during the chaos of the ship's arrival, slip off separately, and meet days later in a completely different city, starting over under new names. No violins, no drowning, just two people choosing each other in a version of the story where survival is actually harder than tragedy. And honestly, that's the part that gets people every time they hear this version. Because dying together sounds romantic in a movie, but building an actual life together, broke, hiding, starting from nothing, that takes a different kind of love. Some fans online have joked that this alternate Titanic is basically the first fictional witness protection romance, decades before that trope became popular. Others say it ruins the emotional gut punch of the original ending, because let's be honest, that iceberg scene made an entire generation cry. But there's something oddly beautiful about imagining Jack Dawson getting old. Imagine him with gray hair, still sketching, telling his grandkids about the night the unsinkable ship almost took him down, and how he chose to disappear into an ordinary life instead of chasing fame. Imagine Rose, decades later, not as an old woman remembering a lost love through a photograph, but as someone who actually got to grow old beside the person she chose on that ship. It flips the entire meaning of the story. The real Titanic became a symbol of loss, of dreams cut short, of love frozen in a single perfect moment. This alternate version becomes something else entirely, a story about what happens after the disaster, when the cameras leave and the applause fades, and two people have to figure out if their connection was real or just something the danger created. So next time you watch that scene where the ship splits in half, ask yourself, would you rather have the tragedy that made history or the quiet, complicated, very human ending where nobody dies, but everybody still has to fight for their happy ending?